The timeline sleep study remediation process, also referred to as group code listing 125, was added to my remediation procession exchange pool in 2011 as a strategic implementation for regulating manual order and settling down comfortably without depending on sleep aids. This process was designed for resurfacing issues that has caused mental disturbances, bars against maintaining physical upkeep, and which has altered comfortable placements into nighttime snoozing. Alongside of adjacent reform, this process triggers memory loss through pattern sequences inside of visionary aspects by way of initiated sensory development and care of ongoing examinations as a recanted enhancement dynamic. Conscious bearing concepts categorize according to adverse demands for directing attention towards an approach stance aligned within systematically aligned coping techniques and production traced alongside of suitable outcome. Adequate rest under this systematically enhanced procedure sets a repetitious rhythm into play for safeguarding 8 hours of a centrifugal force with ease. Set fills up aims, postmarks according to diverse slumbering hours. Narrating among problematic offsets and within indifferences systematically props leeway into justifications under this procession's design formulas and techniques. Enticed understanding serves as a central charge for transfusing operable transitions and penetrating gainful acknowledgments into prolonged damages, hidden substances, overshadowed offsets, and severe interruptions. Out-of-body stimulation techniques aid in the abolishing of underlying disturbances. Sequence order gradually pairs with concurrent momentums and daily routines for allowing increased insight opportunities, which takes control based on enthusiasm within solid manifestations, absent momentary arousals, through determined willpower, and among growth aspects beyond points of action. and translate inside of inconsistent patterns among telepathic roaming. If force-fed alliances align, absent plausible pairing into logical conceptions, the body is prevented from settling down comfortably for resting. Setting a realistic course prior to slumbering is vital for coursing a metabolic balance that penetrates stable interest. Being that disturbances based on apprehensive draws into self-awareness are typically generated by way of complex intentions, causes into effects forms through a sequence of penetrated outlines or penetrating outlines. A shift among mental pathways relative to flight set inside of fearful abruptions, influence scapegoats, unknown substances, falsified amplifications, and fear-causing congestions gradually forms into traces of outpowered recantances. Once marked aligns alongside of influential guidance and absent calming contentment, setting the mind at ease becomes a secondary motive, and resting within one's own state of consciousness therefore wars against calming sensations. Once the point of overwhelmed disgust takes toll, outlooks naturally laden, and self-worth gradually becomes suffocated, overwhelmed, and minced. Challenges led by way of downsized imagery often prevents advancement into concerned demand and performance upkeep from balancing favorably among healthy drives, which would generally transpose upright contentment into best interest and prospect well-being concerns. Over a period of time, if left unattended, justified acceptances will interpret absent-minded conditions as a pull into best interest. Once truthful acknowledgments are uprooted, the mind becomes overwhelmed and without logical form into sensible work. Loss of rest is typically the first sign of defeat, trailing this type of collapse. The mind and body starts to play tug of war, so to speak, based on truthful underlinings, aligned alongside of what's visually apparent. Lack of interest typically becomes the dominant source for marking such capacitated challenges. Living carelessly poised in and for the moment seemingly becomes the norm. Once loss of control is psychologically transmitted among telepathic pathways, life becomes suffix towards post-set reliances and scheduled agendas. Traumatic offsets brought into play under disinclined, disinterested, shiftless, and unfamiliar traces naturally causes comprehension to sway towards the way life is being driven. Search laziness, loss of interest, loss of rest, and habit-formed laziness, also referred to as TDs or telepathic disturbances, under my systematic processing, are based on flight pertaining to fearful abruptions, fear-causing congestions, shifts among mental pathways, falsified amplifications, and outpowered recantances. Also referred to as recurring disturbing episodes, which generally are the first responses when dealing with opposed withholdings and growing inside of realities underlined by way of failures. Unfortunately, such mentally declined thresholds traces into slumbering periods, sets a course as a ratificational acceptance delay penetration, causes varying blockades to outpower persisting order, and streamlines offset subjectives as a prioritized motive. Despite being never-ending and impossible to subdue, changes are seldomly made for revolt study remediation for sessions